Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Forever Bristol City podcast. We're in a very happy mood this morning. I mean, how couldn't we be? Sheffield Wednesday 0, Bristol City 3. And that doesn't really tell the whole story of what an incredible game it is. Today, Mr. P's not here. Some say he's away on a vacation. Others say he's doing something that he's going to very much enjoy. I believe some kind of digging. Others say that his computer's gone a bit crazy with extrapolation. Wherever you are, Mr. P, I hope you're having a fantastic weekend, and we can't wait to have you back next week. But for today, you have me, and I'm joined by Mark Tubby, who is actually a little bit more related to me than we realized before. I'm joined by Tom, Mr. Robbins Ness, and Ant, who you may have seen on here before, who comes with a deep, deep sense of knowledge that I can't wait to get into today. So, full-time thoughts. Mark, how are you feeling at full-time?
Absolutely. I was saying Tom's word, absolutely buzzing. Biggest win at Hillsborough since August 1972, and the number ones, the corresponding weeks, reflect the feel of the times. August 1972, Alice Cooper with Schools Out, and this week is that K-pop band with the unpronounceable names. It's golden. We did the game in 30 minutes comfortably. Balls into the number 10s. Just headed back. Randall fed it tonight, kept on top of them. Mehmeti, Twine, and Reese all combined brilliantly. Game was done. Second half a little bit sloppy, but we're third in the division. We're still unbeaten, and we can still play a lot better. And things, I mean, Struber was Struber. I still think we can play a lot better than that. And I mean, our best return since the Holden days. So yeah, third place, fantastic. I'm absolutely chuffed to bits.
Perfect. Tom, how are you feeling at full time?
Yeah, I had a really good Saturday. Just beyond the actual Bristol City game as well, I noticed quite a lot of my favourite of our ex-players scored as well, which was also nice to see. I can't really add much more than what Mark said, to be honest. It was a great day, wasn't it?
Oh, it's fantastic. And feelings at full time?
Yeah, kind of echo. I mean, the big deal for me is there was more to come. We won the game in 30 minutes, and the second half, which we'll come to obviously, that was a complete canter. You could just sit there and enjoy it and wait for it. So I'll be honest, my thoughts at full time were more veering towards Edgbaston, which I think a lot of City fans were as well. So
Brent Paul was there. He went. Yeah.
I think it may have been one of the best days for Bristol City fans and Somerset fans for some time, but I won't talk about the cricket again. But at full time, yeah, we did the game in 30 minutes, and we could then afford to take the foot off the gas. I almost don't think you can judge anything by that second half because they weren't in it and we didn't need to do anything. But the overriding thing for me is there is definitely more to come from that side than was shown in that game, because as a 3-0, it wasn't what you call a perfect polished performance. And there are definitely things, if you win a game and you can say, yeah, we can do that better, we do that better, then I think you're in a really good space.
Okay. So let's get down to business. First of all, the starting lineup. We'll go into it because I think basically more or less anybody here, if you'd have predicted the starting 11, you would have got 10 of them. And the only question would have been, is it going to be Sykes? Is it going to be you? And which particular wing back will play where? Tom, a question for you. How close are other players to the starting 11 that we saw yesterday? Is anybody truly challenging that starting 11?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. The only one I think is the one that you mentioned maybe on the right wing back, but McCrory's doing so well on the left at the moment, isn't he? That it almost makes sense to stick with Sykes there so McCrory can play on the left. I was saying myself, actually, I think starting 11 wise, this may be one of the best starting 11s I can remember in a long time for Bristol City, to be honest with you.
And is there anyone you see threatening that starting 11? Because we speak about quite often, that it's a squad game, it's a whole season. But right now it seems like that at least 10 is very much set. And the only way it's going to change is, for example, if Dickie's out injured for a period of time. So do you see anybody really threatening it at this moment in time?
I think what you got to look at there is when we made the subs there, what people's reaction would have been. Nobody would have wanted ideally to take Dickie off and bring Tanner on. That definitely weakened you at the back. So that says to me that he's not pushing the side there. I think, we took Randall off for his standard get off after 60, 70 minutes for Bird. Different kind of player. Really like Max Bird, but I don't think he's pushing Adam Randall. At the moment, I think Randall has definitely got that spot nailed down. And then you get into the wing backs, and I'm a Sykes above Hirakawa person. I do agree. I think McCrory's doing well on the left, and I think his link up with Mehmeti is starting to really bear fruit, and you don't really want to disturb that, if anything. We've obviously yet to see really what Neto Borges could do because it only had 5 minutes. So I think you've got to be saying that's the 11, and I will be very, very surprised if come Sunday we don't see that 11 takes the field again.
And Mark, any additional thoughts on the starting 11 yesterday?
No, I'd echo what Tom and Ant said. I think if we'd started a season, and people didn't know, I didn't know much about Adam Randall, we'd say that Max Bird would be one of the first names on the team sheet. But because what Randall's been brought in to do is to break up play and get the ball forward, and he does so much more than that, he has been our outstanding player of the season. So he's sort of out-knighted Jason Knight. They're doing similar jobs. Yesterday, Knight got further forward to feed the number 10s, and Adam Randall did his usual job of covering every blade of grass. So I think it's because they're both pivotal. They can both pivot in front of that, in front of the back three, and link with the number 10s is the reason why Randall's being picked over Bird every week. I think the only other thing with Tanner, I think Tanner came on. I think I heard somewhere, I didn't actually see anything on X, but it may have been precautionary for Dickey. But I think the fact that we brought them in for a reason against Derby to be a counter to their height, it's set pieces, and it's worked very well. So I picked the same 11 if they're all fit.
Okay, excellent. So we started the game, and 2 minutes in, we had a bit of an opportunity for Reece that didn't end up in any shot, but I felt very much that we set our stall out with the game. And on the 6th minute, the opening goal of the game. And talk me through how we got there. How did we get to an early goal? Was it something earned? Was it something that just happened? How did we get to that opening goal?
I think it was earned, and if you earn after 6 minutes, then you're probably doing well. What was really noticeable yesterday is, and certainly for the first 30 minutes, never mind the first 6 minutes, was the intensity of the pressing that was going on. If I could just fast forward for a moment, we know the chance that Reece missed. Immediately before that, there was a period where we had about 7 or 8 of their players were just pressed relentlessly. It went to the keeper, it went to Barry Bannon, it went back to the keeper, and it was press. And though the Reece chance wasn't the same phase of play, it was indicative of the same kind of approach. For the goal itself, it's quite interesting. The corner is, I think, slightly overhit to the back post. McCrory gets his head up, and there's a bit that people may miss there, and that, again, the guy who's always where the ball is, Adam Randall, is actually the first man to pick up the ball in the middle of the box. And you don't tend to see Randall in the middle of the box on a corner. But the ball drops and Randall's there, straight back to Knight, straight back to Randall, straight into Mehmeti. And the one thing that Mehmeti did yesterday, which he's been guilty of in the past, is holding the ball too long. He holds the ball quite often and runs himself into trouble. You can see I've got my coach's gear on for today. What I quite often say to 14-year-olds is play the ball to where the player is going to be, because then you can get behind them, you can get behind them quickly. And if you've done your job, get it in that right area. It's up to someone else to make sure they've done their job. If you're Anis Mehmeti, if you've got the ball there, I want that ball just squared across the box. I'm expecting, if it's not Rob Dickey there, it's going to be Reece. If not Reece, it's going to be Atkinson. So he did absolutely the right thing and played it quickly, and they couldn't reset. They had no chance, and you will always do better against a side if you're playing a ball quickly. It's one of these things where if your shot has to be 9 out of 10 to get past a set goalkeeper, but it only has to be 4 out of 10 to get past an unset goalkeeper because he's not set, he's not ready. That was an example of playing the ball very quickly, but what it comes from is generally a big press. But specifically to the corner, I think you can't underestimate the Adam Randall influence again, and it was probably one of his weaker games in terms of passing and moving the ball on. But he got that ball first. He actually did the first phase, then did the second phase, then Mehmeti did it. And you'd like to say Dicky couldn't miss, but he did his level best. And thanks to Harry Amass at the back post for knocking it in.
Okay, a top description there. I'm going to move it on slightly from the first goal because I think you covered it in very good detail there. Mark, moving on to Reece's chant just after the goal when he kind of gets the ball and he's one-on-one with the keeper but doesn't produce a shot. Have we got the Reece that you expected? Because a lot of people expected somebody that could score a goal but wouldn't do a lot of other work. But I see the opposite to that. I see a player that's very, very, very good around the edges of the game, bringing everyone in. He's a quality player. But in front of goal, well, yes, he scored a couple of goals. He has a habit of missing a few chances. What do you see in Reece?
I see a player who's highly intelligent. The fact that when we're going forward, we're effectively playing as a 3-4-3, and he can play as the number 9, or he can play wide left and he can play wide right, and he's got the strength to beat players and hold the ball up like he did against Sheffield United with what is going to be one of the classic City goals for me. But remember, of course, we got him. The reason we got him was that he was on a free transfer, so he's a champion. He's a championship quality player. He's not somebody who's going to step up into the Premier League. He's about 27 years old. There's still work to be done, but he's got strength and he's got speed over short bursts, and he can hold the ball up and bring other players into play. And he's been intelligent enough to do that under Struber and stretch the game. Perhaps his finishing could improve, but I think he's going to get plenty of chances to put the ball in the back of the net this season. So I think we'll see him score at least, I'd say, why not 10 to 15 goals? I mean, we scored 12 goals in our first 5 games. Best return since we came back into the division in 2015. He's going to get plenty of chances of pulling about and put the ball in the net. So keep him fit. If anybody's got cotton wool, I think we'll wrap him up in it and he'll have a great season.
Tom, first 18 minutes. Today, to be honest, it could be the Anis appreciation show. He was so good yesterday. But talk me through the second goal, what you saw, what intrigued you. Yet again, it was another recovery goal where we're winning the ball high up and killing the chaos. But talk me through the goal as you saw it.
Yeah, I think I've got written in my notes that Knight did the work to find Mehmeti with a good pass to free him, and then obviously a good bit of link up between Mehmeti and Reece for the actual goal. I just think it shows Jason Knight had a bit more influence from an attacking point of view, I think, in this game than we may have seen previously this season. And also it shows, I just think, a great link up between Reece and Mehmeti as well. I think someone spoke earlier on in the pod about McCrory and Mehmeti finding good chemistry. But I think also we've seen something this game between Mehmeti and Reece as well. And yeah, there's a great team goal involving 3 of our most influential players.
And what is it about Reece that's bringing out the best in Mehmeti at the moment? What is it between the two of them that works so well?
Reece does a lot of ugly work. A lot of people think when you're looking at a centre forward, they look at anybody with when they've got the ball. It's actually far more important what they do when they haven't got the ball. So what Reece is doing, and to expand the McCrory piece as well. If you look, every time Vitek's got the ball, what Vitek's looking to do is hit the ball wide left to McCrory. It's very similar to the Lee Johnson, Aidan Flint goal kick thing, where Aidan Flint would pull to the wing to try and head it back in. So what you're trying to do there is the ball is going out to McCrory. McCrory's heading it back in, and Reece is almost occupying a couple of defenders. And he's creating the space for Mehmeti. But the important thing about relationships, again, as I come back to this, is the pace of it. And actually, I think it was before the second goal, we did a very good move, and it was Reece and Mehmeti down the left-hand side, where the ball's coming into Reece, and straight away the ball is laid off for Mehmeti to run down the line. They know he's going, so he knew where he was going to be. So the reason it's working is, and I think I said a couple of weeks ago with Sinclair Armstrong, you're not sure what he's going to do, so you can't trust that you're going to make that run and the ball's going to come. Mehmeti makes that run. He knows that Reece is going to deliver it. He knows Reece is going to occupy the defenders. So if McCrory wins that ball off the head of Vitek and it's coming into Reece, Mehmeti can actually go straight away. He can say, right, I'm going to push him behind because Reece is going to occupy these 2 defenders, and it does tend to be two defenders. We look at that chance that he missed. That was two defenders, and they were terrified because they didn't know how quick he was going to come and which one of them should take him. And he just burst through the middle of them. And very heavy touch, but should have scored. So it is really about Mehmeti trusts Reece.
Interesting.
And he knows what he's going to get from him. And as soon as you're in a position where you know what you're going to get from another player, it means you can play that ball so much quicker.
Exactly. The half a second more, you're on it half a second quicker, and you go a bit faster. Yeah, that makes sense. Mark, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I think there was another big influence in that goal, not exactly to what Ant's saying, was Charlie McNeil. I mean, he tried to clear the ball for the first goal, and Randall was there to keep for the second phase. This time we're pressing so far, he's right down by the corner flag, and he tries to chip the ball forward down the line, and I think it's headed to Randall. Randall heads it to Knight to Mehmeti, slides in Reece. I mean, it's through the goalkeeper's legs like a hot vindaloo. I mean, I think he does between the legs like a hot vindaloo. I think the third goal is about the same, but it's just that ability to press, push them up, and when teams are forced in a corner, just make sure you're there to win the ball, and then it's the next pass. What Ant said is spot on. He knows where he's going to be. I mean, if you read books about teams of the past, they play what they call habit football. They know where players are going to be on parts of the pitch. And I think one of the great things that we've got as a team, although we haven't spent a lot of money, the majority of the team, and we may be thankful for the fact that we haven't made lots of signings, we tweaked the team, is that those players trust each other and they know where they're going to be on the pitch. Struber has just taken that up a level.
That's a good point. And Tom, do you think that we're making football look easy this season because of our energy and intensity? We're not having to score, shall we say, great goals. That second goal yesterday was a good goal, but you're able to do it because you've got space and how you're winning the ball. We're not having to overwork. We're becoming a chaotic, efficient team. Have you noticed the difference in the way we're scoring goals this season?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think one of the first clips I saw of Struber during pre-season, he gathered the players around in like a semicircle, maybe on his first or second day, and he was saying, "What I want us to focus on is when our opponents are in chaos. That's when we absolutely want to kill them." And I think in the first two goals we've described there, corner probably a bit less so because it was just from a corner, but we really took advantage of their chaos in both of those goals. And I'm not sure we did that all the time under Manning, I would say.
No, sure, exactly. Now, Mark, the third goal, I felt leading up to the third goal, we'd gone off the boil slightly. We'd given the ball away a few times. But talk us through the third goal, Mark, as you saw. It started with that crunching challenge that has kind of gone out of the game, but it's something that when you do see it, it just makes you go, wow.
Yeah, it's a crunching challenge by Andy Randall on the halfway line, and it gets to Twine. I can't remember the sequence of events. It gets to Twine, but he chips it to the back post to Mehmeti, and he is so composed when he takes time on the ball. Just going back to what Ant said, I think when Mehmeti's got time, he shows composure. In transition, not so much so. He's a little bit wasteful. But he kills the ball, and then he hits it through the goalkeeper's legs again. It's just a great finish. But that ability again, just to win the ball in midfield with the press, and I think Randall put in a challenge similar to the one that Reece did against Derby, when you could probably hear the crunch, and we should have scored with Mehmeti in fast transition. But this was all about composure. The pass from Twine, the cross to the back, this delicate chip, beats the defender, and he's there as a defender and the goalkeeper on the line. And Horvath is he's no Charles, who's the goalkeeper replaced. The goalkeeper was on loan from Southampton, I think, got injured. Shay Charles, his brother, was far more tall and athletic than Horvath, and you could see the difference. Hopeless by comparison, poor kicking with his left foot, but Mehmeti, composed in front of goal. There's no better finisher. He just needs to polish up his act a little bit when he's in fast transition, and he can play in better players with a first-time pass. So keep doing the things that you're doing and try and expand that into other areas of play.
Tom, is Anis underrated? the way we criticise his decision making, overlooking the fact that he's always in dangerous positions, do we perhaps take what he does a bit for granted and in some ways underrate him?
I want to let Ant speak as well, but I think as Bristol City fans, and it might be the case with all other Championship teams as well, because we watch these players week in, week out, we can really poke holes in their game. But I think Anis Mehmeti is a player that would be admired by pretty much every other Championship club, to be honest with you, with some of the highlights that he produces. So that would be my view on it, to be honest.
And is Anis the first name on the team sheet for you, or not quite that far?
People who know me historically say that no, I can't say that. But then the thing is always important to take anything on board and change minds. If I could just backtrack a bit, just a point on the goal very, very quickly. We spoke about composure, and Anis was exceptionally composed on that chance, absolutely. And actually, you take Anis, in the second half, he was doing a bit more Anis-y things about running up blind alleys and taking too long. Probably because he had license to do so that half because the game was won. But on the goal, it's Randall, again, who, again, didn't have his best game in terms of ball retention yesterday, but did exceptionally well in ball winning. The ball from Twine, I think Twine realises who is in front of Anis at the back post, because it's, again, the same guy who tried to chip the ball out. I can't remember his name, Sheffield Wednesday.
Charlie McNeil.
Charlie McNeil, yeah. He's not a defender. So if that ball comes in from Twine and there's a centre-half there, a centre-half clears it. Because if you look at him, his studs are absolutely nailed to the floor. He doesn't get up at all. He doesn't adjust his body. He doesn't jump. If he does any one of those three things, that ball never gets to Anis Mehmeti's feet. And I think Twine looks up and, I've criticised Twine enough in the past. He looks up and he sees at the back post, actually, yes, there's Anis there, but guess what? We haven't got a big centre-back. We haven't even got a right-back there. We've got someone who's not used to being in that position. So I can play that ball, because 9 times out of 10, and probably 99 times out of 100, that ball gets cleared by any defender. But because of who it is, the awareness of Scott Twine to actually do that ball, because it was pin perfect onto the feet, was excellent. As for Anis, he's totally earning his spot in the side at the moment. I thought he was indifferent in the opening few games of the season. I thought he'd gone from a very good game against Sheffield to a couple of pretty bang average games, to be honest. Played very well yesterday and did well against Hull. So if we're talking 5 games of the season, for me, he's had 3 very good games, 2 average games. Some of that, you will say, is because actually that's what you get with him. That's what you get with, for want of a better term, mercurial players. I do agree with what Tom says. We do pick holes in players when we see them all the time. And, anybody can look good on a highlights reel, with possibly some notable exceptions. But I've said at the start of the season, I want to see from Anis more footballing intelligence. I wanted to see him move that ball quicker. I wanted to make better decisions. If you take yesterday, say about the first goal, he made an excellent decision. If you look at the one where he takes it round the keeper and he hits the side netting, probably makes a bad decision there. And I think generally, though, he was erring more towards the good decision side. And you can see that all feeds into the trust piece we said, the relationship piece they've said, and the pace piece we said. But he's more than earning his place inside. If you're talking the return at the moment, yeah, he has to play at the present time.
Okay, and you brought me nicely onto the next point. So I'm just going to pause the game slightly and focus on Anis a bit more, because we have a situation where we have a player in his contract year. He's producing performances like yesterday. Other clubs above us, Premier League, will notice that, okay, that's the ceiling. First of all, for all of you, and I'll throw it to you first, Tom, do you think he signs a new contract by January? And if the answer is no, do you think he's here in February?
I don't think he does. Not by January, no. I think I'm just trying to put myself in his mindset. I think you'll just hold out for as long as possible and trust I think he backs himself quite heavily, considering like the career journey that he's been on, by the way, and how hard he's worked to get to the level that he's at the moment. I think he's going to back himself to get the best possible move for himself in the summer, and he'll probably work things out after January as to what he wants to do, to be completely honest with you.
But that that leaves us in a very uncomfortable spot, doesn't it? I mean, does anybody think that he will sign by January? I assume the consensus would be no. So my question to you would be, how much would you accept in January? What's the going rate for Anis in January? And how do we look as a club if we are selling one of our most dangerous players in January? Because it's not a good spot for the club to be in. Mark, how do you see it with Anis? What do you see going forward?
We've got no choice but to send him in January if we get the right offer. You don't want a player leaving on a free transfer. And for the Zizou situation where Mark Ashton said, we'll get the player's value on the pitch, and he had no intention of signing. City will have their ceiling. I don't know if Ant and Tom have an idea what his wage is. There's obviously a wage ceiling at City. Agents, of course, are going to get in players' ears because they want their 10, 15, 20% cut of any signing on fee and what have you. So he could get a better deal elsewhere. He could play at a high-end championship club, one with parachute payments like a Southampton or maybe a Leicester, maybe not so a Leicester because they've got problems with FFP, PSR. But it's all about whether City can up their offer him the best deal for him. Don't know if he's got a family, but no, City will have their figure in mind, and Mehmeti will have his figure in mind. But we don't want to lose a player for nothing in the summer. So if the right offer comes along, and we're still left with this impasse, he'll have to go. Sad but true. This is the financial constraints that we're left with. You know, we do need to keep selling players over a period of time. It's very difficult to say we can't keep selling our best players. Lots of clubs sell their best players. I mean, even Ronaldo left Man United to go to Real Madrid. You just don't have any choice. Post-COVID world, we've got huge operating costs. The squad size is big. It's too big, according to Steve Lansdowne. He wants more players coming through the academy. So yeah, this leaves us hamstrung really in terms of whether he feels that it's sufficient or he'll go elsewhere. If City are high enough in the division, we got the bait of saying, look, we're in the promotion shake-up in the top 6 or in the top 2. Fingers crossed, and that might be enough to trade him to sign a new contract. But money talks, doesn't it?
Now, I'm not particularly, I don't want to go down the negative route because I'm feeling rather happy after yesterday. I slept well, had a good night's sleep. Football is easy, football is wonderful. But it leads us into Weiner. And tell me about Weiner's performance yesterday. How did you see it? And the same question in terms of the contract and January in terms of Weiner. What do you see happening going forward?
I thought Weiner was very, very good once more yesterday. There was one bit I really liked in the first half. The Wednesday winger was going inside, and it looked like he was past Weiner. For Weiner to win it, he doesn't go for the ball first off. He slightly leans into the player to take him off balance, then nicks the ball away. It was one of those that's a fantastically mature challenge. That's what you're getting from Zach Weiner now. You're getting those kind of challenges. You're getting good balls down the channel. You're getting a player who is consistent. And I slightly differ from what Mark said about Anis and Zach. We turned down a bid from Wrexham for a guy who's in the last year of his contract. And we don't know how we're going to finish or where we're going to be. And I don't think for either of them it's a binary question, because if we are top of the league in January, then you're going to want to keep the side together to try and get promotion. If I turned around to you and said, right, actually in January you can spend £2 million on a player, how is that different from not receiving £2 million for a player in the last year of the contract? There's a slightly different dynamic with Zach because people pay less for defenders. And God, it looks like that Wrexham do need defenders at the moment. But I see Zach, again, similar with Anis, not signing a deal in the first half of the year. I don't think he'll be signing in January either. I think he will be taking it through to the year. With Zach, the dynamics are a little bit different because he's a bit older. This will be his last contract. I think both of them are championship players. I don't see any interest from a higher level.
So you don't think that any Premier League club will look at those two players and think, oh, they could make the step up there?
No, not a moment. I think with Anis again, he needs to have the decision making better on a more consistent basis for a Premier League side to look at him. He's not going to get as many opportunities as he would do at this level in the Premier League. With Zach, it's a simple case of he's, I think, 28 years old. Good footballer, yeah, absolutely. Yes. But are you really going to pay big money to give a 28-year-old who's not played that level before his start in the Premier League? In order for Zach to get to the Premier League, he's got to get promoted.
Okay, so from what you said there, the way I see it at the moment, and Mark, I'll lead into you because I know you have a point to make. We have two players there that are out of contract at the end of the season. What we are essentially talking about, and the way I see it, is we either get promoted or they both leave on a free. Does anybody disagree with that?
What about Sykes as well?
So last bit again, sorry.
So we either get promoted or they both and Sykes end up leaving on a free in the summer. Does anybody disagree with that?
I think that Viner would have gone if McNally had been fit, because we just didn't have the depth. There was no way we could risk losing a player who was I think a certain starter in defence, because we play with a back three because we don't have the depth, and he's rewarded the fact that he's getting picked every week with good performances. So I think that was the, 2.5 million was probably a fair return for a player who left at the end of the season. But if Luke McNally is still here, then Viner would go. With Anis, and of course with January signings, it's a seller's market. So City would only accept something that they felt was reasonable. So anything I'd say from 7 to 10 million, depending where he's at the time. So they're not going to take a stupid offer, and just because he's leaving, they would have a figure in mind if he still wants to leave, and no player hands in a transfer request. But I just think he could err on the leaving, but it depends where we are on the league. But then of course January is a strange time because it's a seller's market. The selling club would ask for silly money, and I don't think City will want him to leave, because he's a forward player, going back to what Ant said, and they're more expensive because they score goals. For anything less than, I'd say, 7 to 10. Would either of you agree with that figure, or disagree?
How much do you think they're worth, Tom? And if either of you want to come January, what are we looking to sell them for? I mean, Viner apparently was not even 5 million. In September, so in August, so he now knows what his value is going forward in terms of wages. How much will we be forced to sell them for in January if it comes to that?
I'd say 5 for both of them, to be honest with you. I reckon
5 for both. Interesting. And agree, disagree?
Both of them would be 5 million, 10 million combined.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm going to answer this with the Jason Knight point, that they're worth more to us than they are in the market. And that was
only for 4 months, because in the summer, we're back to square one again.
Absolutely. Look, I think that I agree with the point that we've said that Zach, this is your value now, effectively. So that in turn shows a hand in contract negotiations and so on and so forth. I genuinely don't think that Anis is a 7 to 10 million player. So if you offer me that in the last,
neither do I. But it's a seller's market. That's what it comes back to, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. And there's a few interesting decisions being made by us recently. Like, I mean, I don't think Sinclair Armstrong's a 1 million player, and we've turned down that for him allegedly.
Yeah.
So
1 million euros.
1 million lira. Got me age a little bit. But no. So in context, do I think they're both? Is 5 million the price point for each of them? I can see us getting a 5 million offer if we'll say Wrexham again, they continue to be performing as they are, and Dom Hyam doesn't do the job that they brought him in to do instead of Zach. And Anis, if he continues the form he's in, it's going to be, we will get offers. Yes, absolutely. But again, I come back to the point is, if you are in the top 2 at that point, do you sell? Do you stick or twist? Because when we've been in these positions before, we talk about last season and not spending anything in January, which actually that was because we decided to spend all the money in the summer and brought our business forward. But we go back as far as Lee Johnson. Gary Johnson, and not really strengthening when we were in the playoff zone. We had Adebola and Carl, but it wasn't a mass strengthening. Historically, the bit that I think is, even if we're in top two and want to keep hold of everybody effectively, that was valuable to the squad, I think we have to remember historically, we've not really pushed on in January when we've been in a good position. So, and that's been in terms of signing players. So I have the fear that we may sell players.
I
the
just
big
remembered
thing.
something historically that people will like, and it just came to me in a flash. During the promotion season of 75-76, and I'm going to lose the room because this is obviously a lot older than everybody else.
Be quick.
We refused, I think it was a joint offer of £250,000 for Tom Ritchie and Jeff Merrick. I mean, come on, 250,000 for Sir Jeff and Tom Ritchie. And the club said no and sold a lot of season tickets on the back of that. So there is historical precedent, and if that's the historical precedent we're going to take, I take that all day long.
Well, this is the point. I mean, at the end of the day, it is the elephant that's going to sit in the room unless contracts are signed. Is that the higher up we are in the league, the less likely they are to want to sell, because the message is just wrong for a football club. But moving on back to football, that's the negativity done.
Yeah, sorry.
So half time, substitution, Dickey off on comes Tanner, a slight readjustment to the back three. And what did you see in the opening 15 minutes? Because some people would say that we sat off and there wasn't, the intensity wasn't there. Other people would say that actually we'd already won the game and we were saving gears for bigger challenges ahead. How did you see the start to the second half, especially?
The latter. To a degree. I mean, what you've got to remember is no matter how bad the side you're playing are, and Wednesday are probably as poor a side as we've seen at this level at the moment, if you're 3-0 down at half-time, you're still going to get a reaction from opponents. And they could have pulled one back shortly before half-time when, I think it was Ugbo at the back post, should have put the ball in the back of the net. That was a horrific miss. But they're going to come out, they're going to be a bit more intense. They were a bit more intense. You've got to almost weather some kind of storm, but it wasn't a storm that resulted in any kind of shots needing to be saved. I mean, I barely recall a save that Vitek had to make in the entire game.
He didn't.
And I felt, and just on the Vitek subject, just segueing back slightly, there's a question about Max O'Leary and what he wants to do with his contract being up in the summer, which we've all forgotten because Vitek's been that good for us. If you're Max O'Leary, you're thinking, I might have to move on here, even if we can't retain Vitek, because we know the type of keeper we want, and he gives us far different things to what Max does.
There was a moment in the 70th minute when he came for the cross, and it was like that's how you snuff out everything, and it was a highly, a big moment.
The only thing he did wrong was he nearly lost the ball when he was mucking around with it, I think, halfway inside our half, about halfway in the second half, where we put a slightly dodgy pass in, but other than that...
Sometimes you get lucky in those things, there's a saying, it's better to be lucky than good, and that's one of the moments. Now, Tom, I'm going to give you a moment to educate me, here, because on the, what minute was it here? The 60th minute, we had 2 substitutions, you for Sykes and Bird for Randall. If you can, Tom, educate me on you. What does he bring to the table? Because I just don't get it. I'm not talking energy. I'm not talking effort. I see all that. But as an attacking entity, educate me. What does he bring to the table?
Oh God, you put me on the spot. It's hard to answer that one. I'd say really. The question I guess with you is, what is his best position? I know he's been used as wing back. I think he's played there internationally for Japan as well, hasn't he? But I'm still questioning whether he's best suited to a wing back or more of an advanced role. I can't really put my finger on what his best position is, or necessarily what he does exceptionally. Well, I guess he's not like an exceptional player, but what his standout traits are from an attacking point of view, to be honest. Not trying to disparage him as a player, but that would be my overall thoughts.
No, the reason I asked the question, and Mark, will put it to you and then you, Anne, is that we judge Anis to a certain level. We criticise his decision making, we criticise certain bits, but he's always getting in those positions. we judge you to a completely different, at least in my opinion, to a completely different standard. If he shows a bit of energy and a little bit of maybe danger, all of a sudden he's having a good game. And I appreciate they don't play in the same position, but I just don't see what you does in terms of attacking returns. I don't see the juice being worth the squeeze. So, Mark, on to you. Please educate me. Tell me what I'm missing.
He doesn't, unlike Sykes. Sykes is as a wing back. He's more of an attacking wing back who will fly down the side of the pitch and put in great crosses, like he did at Wednesday last season for Nahki Wells, and similarly against Preston, where he completely lost the defender, had already been booked, so he can put in great crosses, fly down the wing. Yesterday we didn't really need to use him at all. Yu doesn't do that because he plays. He's left-footed. When he's played on the right, he tends to cut back inside. What he does do
Is he left-footed?
I'm not sure. To be quite honest, I'm not sure if he is left or
I would say I believe he's right-footed. He just plays on the left.
I can't tell, but he does seem to cut in a lot. I think he'd be better as number 10 role because I think because he cuts inside. What he does bring to the team, but it's not what he was brought to the team for. Is he's extremely busy and he never gives up. So his work rate in defence is excellent. He won't make a lot of tackles, but what he'll do is he'll slow his opposite number down. So he'll stick close to him, and that enables other defenders, to double up against him. So defensively, I think he's excellent. He won't put in huge tackles, but he'll slow players down and get his body in front of the ball, and that means that he can win free kicks. I think they said there was a City player winning classic free kicks. I think George Tanner was doing it yesterday. You just fall over, don't you? Feel any pressure on the back, and players go over now, and they win a free kick. He does that very well. But I think the disappointing thing for me is that we want to see him. We want to see him beat defenders. If you want to see players playing in a wide role, you really want to see them play wide, beat defenders, take people on, not just cut inside. If he's going to do that, he's going to want to play more 1-2s. I think the only time he probably did that when he was involved in like the daisy chain goal that Max Bird scored up at Preston, which was another one of the best goals I've seen for City in years. It was absolutely brilliant. So attacking, nothing there at the moment because he's not in the right position. He's not a wing back. International football, I think, is played at a different pace. I just don't think it works for City, and he's only there because Ross McCrory would play right wing back if Cam Pring was fit. We don't know if Neso Borges can play.
That's what I mean. It's like you're saying.
That's it. He's only there as a short-term fix. That's it.
I get that point on the other side, and just leading it into the other substitution. Why do you think it is that Bird for Randall is the substitution? What's the reasoning, in your opinion, for not seeing Bird for Knight at any point? Because I appreciate, Knight is 90 minutes, 90 minutes, 90 minutes. But if he did get injured, don't we need to have some time together of Bird and Randall to know that it can work? Is that not a possible weakness going forward?
Ideally, yes, we do need time for Bird and Randall together. I mean, Knight is like a metronome. He's continually 90 minutes, you say, every week. And the medical team know him better than I will. I'm guessing one of the rationales here is there are some players who are just better the more they play, and actually rest doesn't do them any good. He's kind of like a freak of nature in respect to that. I'm not sure what you learn by having Bird and Knight together now, because we know they can play together. We've seen them play together historically. We've seen them play together very well last season. For me, Bird, I think, should have come on for one of the 2-10s, if anything. If you say you're going to have Knight in there, the big deal for those two in the central midfield for me, in the way we play, is they need to have a lot of energy. They need to be winning the ball, need to be up and about. So for me, actually, the next person that comes in the cab off the rank there when he's fit is Joe Williams. So actually, I see Max Bird, in the way we play now, being more in one of the 2-10s. because he's got that creativity. He can move the ball around, and actually he's got reasonably decent energy, but he's not the same kind of player as a Knight, a Randall, or a Joe Williams. So I'd be looking at, we talked about you a moment ago. I think we roll back to where we came in about the starting lineup. Would you put anybody else in? When we're talking about you a year after joining and we can't work out whether he's right-footed or left-footed, that indicates we haven't quite worked out what he's for in any way, shape or form at the moment. So for me, and that probably speaks to the wider point of when we're getting players in, you look at the success stories we've had, like Adam Randall, like Emil Rees in early stages, like Vitek. They're players that are known in one way, shape or form. When we've taken our punts, for want of a better term, by spreading the net to Japan, spreading the net to Austria, for example, we've been less successful. And it comes to actually having a reasonably tight scouting operation where you have speciality and recruiting to a plan. And we haven't hugely recruited to a plan, which is what probably hamstrung us from actually improving the squad further in the back end of August.
No, I get that. And Tom, Bird yesterday, in terms of his performance, just in my notes, I had 65th minute, Bird to McCrory to Anis, and he hit the post. In the 75th minute, Anis, another chance set up by Bird. I saw a performance from Bird that was a step up from a few games ago. I see a player that's getting that energy back. Did you see an improvement yesterday? Are you happy for him in the centre midfield role? Or do you think, as Ant said, that his better position is more advanced?
He definitely improved. Looks like, the minutes he's been getting has been beneficial to him. But again, I would have just preferred. I don't think Scott Twine he definitely didn't have a bad game yesterday, but there was more play on the left-hand side, I think, than the right-hand side. And I thought the substitution I personally would have made, I think I would have brought on Bird for Twine, to be completely honest with you. That's the move I would have made. I think I've seen more from Bird in the whole game in the more advanced position than we did yesterday in the deeper midfield spot, to be honest. I don't think he minds either which position he plays in. He was saying he did a big, long pre-match press conference before the game, and he was pretty much saying he didn't mind which position he played in, to be honest.
Exactly. No, I get that. Now, Ant, I appreciate you have to go soon, so I'll throw one more question to you. And this question is not a criticism. This question comes from a position of such strength that Struber and the team have created. Yesterday, in the 81st minute, we had a substitution of Sinclair Armstrong for Rees. Why are we leaving it so long when the game is already won? Why not protect, rest, and give Sinclair more time to show something? Why are we leaving it till the 80th minute?
There's possibly two strict-free answers to that. The first one is the horrible truth that Sinclair's not very good. They don't have on the pitch for that long. But let's not be harsh there. The second one, again, is rhythm. Because what we're talking here is we now have 8 days to the next game because we're playing on Sunday against Oxford. We were 2 weeks since the last game. So actually, there is a case to be made here. The only player that's been on international breaks is Jason Knight. So you can say, yes, let's rest these players, but in that awful John Lansdowne, Brian Tinian phrase, they're at risk of being deconditioned if they do have too much time off. So you look and say, well, they've not had a game for 2 weeks. They've not got another game for 8 days. We can give them that extra time. The medical team, again, we're looking at it, we'll give them the extra minutes. This isn't the case of the Wednesday, Saturday churn. This is fortnight, 8 days. So that, to me, is probably the bigger reason for it. The third reason, again, is you didn't know what kind of reaction you were going to get from Wednesday. You didn't know if they were going to come out all guns blazing and say, we could have conceded just before half time. We didn't look like conceding. And yeah, I would have made subs probably earlier. I'd have given Borges, I'd looked at giving him 20 minutes to try and integrate him a little bit more. Again, I think if you're playing this system, your most natural replacement for Rees is Cornick. I think they play the most similar. Cornick's like the Timu or Happy Shopper version of Emil Rees. So you put him in there because Sinclair changes the way you play. And make no bones about it, I would have let him go for that if that deal from the Turkish club actually had any reality in it. We should have probably said, let's say goodbye at this time because I'm not sure what he's going to bring in the next 4 months that we gain by letting him go.
It's a good point. So, Mark, Anne, I appreciate you have to go. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoy your football today as much as you did yesterday. And please find a way to let us know how you get on. And thank you for your time this morning.
But I do. See you later.
Good to see you, man.
Ciao for
Take
now.
care, mate.
Okay, moving forward slightly. New signing, Borges for McCrory in the 86th minute. Personally, I saw a statement of intent. It was only, it's only 5 minutes, 10-minute performance, but I saw a lively performance from him that said, I want a position in the starting 11. I'm here to compete for a place. It was not timid at all. Tom, what did you see yesterday from Borges when he came on?
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree with what you said. And I think as a player, he's probably desperate to get game time, isn't he? Because I think it was pretty obvious. Well, I mean, they loaned him out to us. So it's pretty obvious he was out of favour at Middlesbrough. He's 28, 29. So he's in what you'd think is almost his prime. He's just desperate for game time, isn't he? So he's going to be doing whatever he can to try and get himself as many professional football minutes as possible, to be honest. I think he showed what he could to do that yesterday.
Mark, what did you see from him? What did you see from him? Anything impress you? Anything stand out? I appreciate it wasn't a great amount of time, but in the short time we saw him.
Happy birthday to Nesso yesterday, 29 years old. And it's a strange situation, isn't it? I mean, he played 35 games for Middlesbrough last year. I don't know many sub appearances. So I think Rob Edwards changed to wing back. So he played left centre back and left back for most of his career and found it hard to settle. But a player who wanted to get forward, and I would like to have seen him for a lot longer. I think the interesting thing with Middlesbrough, there is a precedent for them letting a player go out on loan. It was better at his lonely club was Jed Spence. He played so well for Nottingham Forest during a loan spell about 4 seasons ago. People forgot that he was actually on loan from Middlesbrough, and then Middlesbrough sold him to Spurs, didn't they, for big money? So hopefully it'll be a mistake. An experienced player. And then we need somebody on that side until Pring recovers, because I still feel that that Ross McCrory on the right, even if you play you on the left, we'd be looking to beat Oxford next week. They've only got 2 points from the first 5 games.
No. Exactly.
Pardon?
I just want to, before we come to Oxford and other formations, I just want to ask you both a question based on full time yesterday. And Tom, you first. How much of it was us being good yesterday, and how much of it was Sheffield Wednesday being that poor?
I think, to be honest, based on what I've seen from Sheffield Wednesday so far this season, if you score the first goal against them, that's the important thing, because they didn't really have much teeth up front at all, did they? They had the one chance at the end of the first half that they could probably have scored from, but other than that, they didn't really. I don't think Vitek had anything to do. So I think the important thing was
the shot that he put in Rosette, didn't he? And that was about it.
Exactly. So I think, the important thing was getting the first goal and getting off to a fast start, and that's exactly what we did. So I think it's a bit of both, really. We played perfectly to them to beat them, and they were also not very good.
Mark, do you think we were professional? We made them look what we are by the standards that we set, by the intensity, and it was just too much for them. Would you say that was a Bristol City burnt performance, or was it Sheffield Wednesday just being one of the worst sides in the division at the moment for a lot of reasons?
I think we were poor. They were poor, excuse me, before somebody plays this back, because we work extremely hard from start to finish. The work rate's gone up. The press is really coming to its own, and that's what's winning this game. I mean, Pep Guardiola said once, I think the closer you are to the opponent's goal, the easier it is to score. When I think Thierry Henry said he never worked as hard when he played up front for Barcelona, because he was doing the most of the pressing. It's a club, it's in civil war. I mean, there's a Chancery out organisation that have adopted yellow and black colours. They've protested outside the Thai embassy, the things that Chancery's done. Let the license run down on the North Stand. It's only been reopened recently. It's a club in civil war, and Sheffield Wednesday got some of the best fans in the division. Traditionally, they're better supported than Sheffield United without the success. Played in the Premier League for 20 odd years, but they've got fantastic supporters who deserve a lot better, and they don't deserve an owner like that. So people complain about Steve Lansdowne, but we got stability, we got a good team, and we're third in division. But we earned that win, and you don't get anything for luck in this division. We earned a win, and we're halfway to getting the same total away wins that Liam Manning got last season. We only won 4 away games last season. We won 2 already. So I'll make it continue.
It's very good point you make. I'm just seeing Alan Gunnell's put Seles has been sacked by Sheffield United. Very interesting after their poor start to the season.
I wonder why. Yeah.
Well, yeah, who knows? Unlike us. Now, Tom, 2.2 points per game. Over 101 points for the season projection. Is this sustainable? Are we talking a squad that's good enough for a top 2 hunt, shall we say? Or are we slightly overvalued in terms of points per game at the moment, and actually we're due a bit of a regression at some point? And if you do think it, why?
I think fixtures-wise, we've had a decent start to the season, to be honest, in terms of quality of teams that we've played. Sheffield United, obviously that was one of the best opening days in our history that certainly I can remember. But I think it's come to prove that they're not very good. So that's probably actually quite a kind fixture. I think once we get into the true sort of top end of the Championship teams, I don't know if we'll get found out, but that's a real test for us. And I just think in terms of I've said it loads, but the quality of our starting 11 is absolutely fantastic. And we've probably got, at the moment, 2-3 players on the bench that you would trust to come in and be able to replace some of those starting 11 players. But as we get into, more football, and maybe the FA Cup comes into things as well, the attrition comes in. I just worry about injuries, to be honest. I think injuries will be, well, as we know, will probably come to haunt us at some point. I hope they don't, of course.
Interesting what Tom says there, Mark. So how I see it is that there are actually options. I was thinking about it yesterday. What options do we have in certain positions? And you saw it. Dickey was injured. Tanner's come in, and yes, it's not quite the same strength level as when Viner's on the right, but it's an option. You've got Borges on the other side. You've got plenty of wing-back options. You've got a midfield. I mean, as an example, in the next game, we could be playing a 4-3-1-2 if we so wished. There's a lot that can be done there apart from the striking options. So, Mark, how do you see it? Is it sustainable? Is a top 2 hunt really possible? Should we dream?
I think, as a fan base that doesn't expect much success, and I think our motto should be, it's the hope that kills us. You expect there to be a downturn because they say you should beat what's in front of you. Last season we didn't beat the bottom teams. So this season we're doing that. We are beating what's in front of us, and we are capable of playing better. The problem we got Campering, who could play left centre backs out. Hayden Roberts isn't being played at all. He could have played as left wing back yesterday. He could play as left centre back, but I don't think Struber fancies him as a player, and only as a utility player if needed. But he could have played as left wing back, but he wasn't even brought on. So we brought a player in Neto Borges in, who he trusted more as more experienced player. So that doesn't bode well for Roberts' future. So it's just down to depth, keeping players fit. If Reece gets injured, we've got a problem at the moment. We need him to stay fit until January. We can compensate for that by having a Bird, Mehmeti, Twine front three and pushing somebody forward there. Sam Bell wasn't deemed strong enough, so he was sent out to Wickham. His contract is up at the end of the season, and I think that's probably his level, and he will perhaps try and push back up and have his day again. But it's time that this level is finished. But it's really the Reece situation. Can we keep Reece fit until Christmas, when we will hopefully recruit somebody to come in behind, because there isn't anybody else. Mayulu, I think I would trust more than Armstrong. And Cornick, I think with what Anne said, I think I'd take his name to Happy Cornick. What Cornick does, and what he would have done against a team like Derby, is he would have been a complete pest, and he would have chased down the fullbacks for the 10 minutes that he was on. He wouldn't give anybody time on the ball. So that's what he does for you. He runs and runs and runs. Didn't see him get a lot of the ball against Hull, unfortunately, because I think we were favouring the right. But he's a player that will give everything if he is brought in. But I'm surprised that we're still continuing to pick him, because if you think about it, three strikers on the bench. Why pick Mayulu, Armstrong, and Cornick when perhaps you could bring somebody in through the academy? It does seem a bit strange.
This is the point of looking forward. So for you, Tom, we've got until the next international break, we've got a weekend game, midweek game, weekend game. With that best 10 plus 1, is it a case of just set it and forget it for every game? Or do you want to start seeing a bit of rotation involved to keep everybody fresh for as the season progresses? Like if we say, for example, Oxford, do you want to see the same team set it and forget it? Does that apply to the next game? When do you expect rotation, or is it just wait for injuries?
I think the rotation comes with minutes. Well, it's not rotation exactly, but minutes off the bench if we're comfortable in games. But I just don't see how anyone in that 11 today, with the exception of Sykes, doesn't start. I think it would be really cruel to take any of them out of the 11. And I think fitness and like conditioning wise, I think they're all, in terms of players, they're all good athletes in terms of ability to play 90 minutes, apart from maybe the wing backs, just because it's such a tiring position. But yeah, I don't see why you change the 11 week in, week out at the moment.
The reason I asked the question is because towards the end of last season, the team just dropped off because they had just game after game after game. And surely if we want to be considered a big boy in this division, don't we have to be thinking of the long prize? And yes, first and second would be great. But don't we need to be thinking, right, we've got the team. We need to make sure they're all at peak form in the playoffs. When do you start thinking and looking in that direction? Or is it just what we did last season? Get there and worry about it after. Mark, I know you're drinking some water, but I'm going to ask you next.
Sorry if I make a noise.
No, you're perfect. How do you see it? Are you happy with set it and forget it every week? Or does there come a point when we need to start rotating a little bit?
I keep the same 11 because, I mean, there's nothing better than playing a settled side. I mean, they should be fit enough. I mean, I think the trouble with the championship and football in general from it was when I were a lad, going back to the 70s, it's a lot quicker and it takes much more of a physical toll on players than it did. And for City to play the same 11, even in consecutive games, was very rare indeed. But I keep doing it, get those points on the board until you're able, with Joe Williams coming back, with Cam Pring coming back. I'm very sorry to hear that Luke McNally's had a setback, and it doesn't look like he's going to be coming back until at least January. I believe now. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, keep playing those players. You don't have to play them for the full 90 minutes. With 9 substitutes now, you can really refresh the team and play 5 substitutes. And we've got 5 strong enough substitutes, apart from the number 9 role, who can come onto the pitch and do a really more than adequate job. So, and I like what Tom said. I think this is the strongest starting 11. When have we been able to say that? I'm going to get a T-shirt made on. That sounds fantastic.
A good feeling, right?
Now. Oh exactly. God, a tremendous feeling. Yeah,
it feels good.
We're like happy people, aren't we? Like REM said.
You can't wait till the next game. That feeling of a buzz of like every game looks winnable. Every game is up, well, that's 3 points, and you feel like you're a challenge for everybody. But also, when you're riding high, sometimes it's good for some self-analysis. Tom, you've highlighted something, and I know you want to bring it up. What's an area that we really need to work on and improve if we want to really maximise ourselves this season?
Yeah, so I mean, we as Bristol City have quite possibly the best free kick taker from a direct free kick position in world football. But all of the other attacking free kicks that I've seen us, and corners as well, I've seen us take this season, I think we waste far too many of them. I don't quite know what the root cause of the issue is. I tweeted yesterday saying a set piece coach might help us. I don't know who's managing the set pieces and how we take them tactically at the club at the moment. But also our delivery from set pieces has been atrocious at times, I would say. I don't know what both of you think about that.
We took short ones yesterday when Twine was in a position to cross the ball. And if you look at the way that he chipped that ball for Mehmeti's goal, you think, why did they play the ball short? Because they played the ball back and then the whole thing collapsed. It was just strange because he's got the chance to arc the ball. And if you do a little bit of research on the changes in flight, like knuckleball and top spin. It's the way the player kicks the ball, the angle of approach, all of those things. You can imagine that the hours that Twine puts in on the training ground to get these free kicks. I mean, I think somebody's put a show reel of his 16 free kicks, league free kicks on there. So that includes MK Dons, Swindon, City and Burnley. I think the only one that's missing is the one against Wolves last season. They're absolutely brilliant. I mean, when that first goal went in against Sheffield United, Michael Cooper, one of the best goalkeepers in the division, just stood there. The ball's in the back of the net. He's just completely different. They're beaten. There's nothing he can do about it. I mean, sometimes he hits it in the side of the net, though. Sometimes he hits it in the top corner. He's just got a wonderful free kick ability.
I think
why not? But why did he have to play short free kicks? They were atrocious, Tom. Like you said, absolutely abysmal.
I think there is a time and a place for being slightly imaginative, shall we say? But the issue is that the free kicks that we aren't doing well kind of stick in the brain. Like the bird won the outswinger against Charlton, the one yesterday, and you almost want to say to Twine, right? Just pretend it's a shot on goal and hit between the 6-yard box and the penalty spot, and hit it with speed, because he seems to approach free kicks that aren't on goal differently. And you want it, just put it there. Just put it there with as much pace as you can, and the defenders will attack it. So I think you make a very good point, Tom, in that respect. Now, moving on. Yesterday, we came up against a club that are in disarray, that are struggling in many respects. And here we are in this podcast talking about a top 6 push, a top 2 push, the strength of the squad.
Even a top 8 push, because there's been talk.
We're coming to this in a moment, but first of all,
sorry,
no, it's okay. It's okay.
Sorry.
Are we a well-run club, Tom? I'll leave that to you first. Do you think that Bristol City are a well-run club in general?
I think the answer to this is nuanced, to be honest with you. In some ways, yes, and in some ways, probably not. I think Mark, it's something I haven't looked into too much, but Mark was saying in terms of operating costs and stuff like that. The club still makes a massive loss every season, as I understand it. And I don't know. You think of on paper, well, in my mind anyway, it's a good footballing club. It has good season ticket sales. The merchandise is good. People buy into the club, spend their money. I just can't work out how we are spending so much money as a football club. I don't know what's happening there. But at the same time, we've got, I think, a footballing system now where the managers and players are perfectly aligned in the way that they want to play. And this summer, we have brought a few players in that I think are perfectly aligned to that style. So I think it's nuanced for me. There's good and bad.
And Mark, how do you see it? Is because I think Tom summed it up quite well there. But where do you stand on the spectrum of how well run, I can barely say the expression, the club is?
I think it is nuanced, because you think of the money that we bring in through. I mean, we even sold a manager, didn't we, over the summer? If you look at it, the compensation that's paid for Liam Manning would have gone onto the spreadsheet. We got the HPC, obviously, that costs a lot of money. Women's football team, Bristol Bears, it's all tied up in like a cat's cradle of the company. So there's lots of money going in. But I think the operating costs are huge. The squad is big. So why haven't we got the money to invest in the team? I think the badly run thing comes when it comes down to recruitment. Going back to the start of last season, we decided to get Sinclair Armstrong and Fallon to replace who is always going to leave, was Tommy Conway. People have a go at Tommy. He wanted to leave. They got the offer that they wanted, and he's doing all right for Middlesbrough. So good luck to him. But it's about recruitment. So if you compare those two to the recruitment of Adam Rundle and hopefully Nesso Borges, the difference between night and day, because we haven't got a return on those two players, but we have done so far, touch wood, and I don't see there's any reason not to continue. And of course, with players like Jason Knight, Max Bird has probably got to improve. Even Scott Twine, I would say last season he was a show pony, but because he's playing a bit more further forward in that 3, because we always play a 10 on top of Reece. It's effectively a 3-5, a 3-5-2 in attack, or 3-4-3. One of the number 10s is playing on top of the number 9 or replacing them. I mean, if you saw the goal against Derby, and again,
and that's
I go
the
back to the
point.
goal against Sheffield United. You know, you get the player, the best player in the position to score. But it's about good recruitment, and we wasted money in some areas, and that was the reason why it wasn't reinvested in January. But the it's always got to be spot on. Brentford have been doing it for years, and they had a particular way of doing that with Matthew Benham. I think he owned a club in Denmark. Matty Andrews. Somebody he did use that as a template. The way that they purchased players, and pre-Brexit, you got likes of Neapol, Morpay, Brian in Broom. So it's always got to be about recruitment. The recruitment's got to be spot on every time. It's very difficult.
I think it's difficult to be perfect with recruitment, but where we are right now, we're going in. You know, as we spoke about earlier, we've got 3 potential players out of contract at the end of the season. We've got a couple of cans to be kicked along the road. Tom, would you sit in the looking at other owners, be careful what you wish for camp? Or would you sit in the we should demand more and we should expect more? And you can't sit on the fence here. You've got to pick one camp to be in, just because I'm feeling a bit naughty and a bit happy today.
I'm very grateful for what, and I have a even more affiliation with Steve Lansdown than just Bristol City, because I think he's pumped quite a lot of money into the sport of swimming in Bristol as well, which is something I compete at. So I'm grateful for his overall investment in not just Bristol City Football Club, but also I think in Bristol as a city. But are we at a time now as a football club where to get to that next level, we need a different owner? Like, thank Lansdown for what he's done for us so far. Sell it on to something. There's been a rumor this morning about the Saudi boxing guy potentially putting a bid in for us. Is it time, if we want to take the next step, to get someone else in? I think we might be at that point in time at the moment, to be honest.
Okay, good. I made you choose. Now, last question of the day. There's a possible new playoff format being mentioned. Top 8 qualifying, 3rd and 4th get a bye in the first round. What's not to love? More inclusive, more teams get more opportunities. The season goes on for longer. What's not to love, Mark?
I don't see a problem with it at all. Keeps more jeopardy, brings the fans in through the turnstiles. I don't see what's not to like. There was the playoffs were changed in the playoffs were brought in the late 80s for I think for 2 or 3 seasons. The team that finished 3rd played the team that were 3rd from bottom in the 2nd division, and we managed to relegate Sheffield United. I don't know if anybody will remember that, but we did manage to relegate Sheffield United before losing to Warsaw in the final. So I think go with it. If it creates more jeopardy, it'll bring fans in. Form's not everything when you're going into the playoffs. Sunderland lost their last 5 games because they anchored themselves to 4th place. They were too low to go up, too high to fall out, and they still managed to win one of the most exciting ends to a playoff championship final I've seen in years. And they don't seem to be doing too bad in the Premier League. I mean, the gap between the Premier League and the Championship is massive now. So if a team went up in 8th place, it's highly likely they get relegated. But why not give it a chance? Give it a go. It doesn't have to be something that's permanent. Try it for 2 seasons and see what happens. I don't think it'll happen this season because decisions are usually taken by the boards.
It can't happen this.
The Premier League, they would have to have agreed it at the beginning of the season. But why not give it a try for a couple of seasons, see what happens? Why not? If you've got to see an Oxford United in the Premier League, why not? They'd have deserved it because they would have played all those extra games and they'd have played them away from home. Because of course, in the National League, the lower placed teams, it favours the team who finish higher up. Didn't help Forest Green last season, and they sacked Steve Cottrell. That's what happens.
And Tom, how do you feel about the proposed format? It's not broken, don't fix it, or it fills you with a bit of excitement to inject a bit of chaos to the Championship? Not that it needs more.
I was a bit reactionary when it first came out, and I remember tweeting saying I don't think you should be rewarded in any way for finishing 8th place. But I'd imagine if I was around in the late 80s when the playoffs were introduced, as Mark said, I'd have probably said the same thing about finishing 6th. And well, I think the playoffs are a good addition to football, and making them more exciting may actually be a positive thing. I just think there's a fair point that teams need to be given fair time to prepare for it. Like, you can't. I think it would be unfair to introduce it this season. Maybe give it a couple seasons potentially for teams to build a strategy to head to it, and then it could be something that brings some more interest to the sport.
To be honest with you, I think it adds more interest across the league because it keeps more teams in the hunt. And in addition to that, it's also a way to equalize the parachute payments slightly because you give more teams a shot at least one of those parachute payment sides. Now, parachute payments don't mean everything. Some teams come down and they do struggle.
Well, look
But
at
at the end of the day, it's just a slight equalizer because anybody could beat anybody over a game or two. And if you haven't earned the right for the top two, well, you've got to go into that chaos world. And I understand, not broken, not fix it, because football is a traditional sport in that way. But it's also always evolving. The rules are always changing. Look at offsides. They have evolved over time. If it doesn't work, you can always revert back. It doesn't mean you're committed to it forever. So my personal opinion is, I would be in favour.
I agree. Second.
Tom.
Is it me?
I was going to say, that's basically the end of the part. Does either of you have anything you'd wish to add at the end of the podcast? Any shout outs?
Yeah, I just want to shout out to my dad, who's been watching this. Dad's been recovering from prostate cancer, and he enjoys watching the show. And I want to say I'm the most knowledgeable of all the people that have been on, but I enjoyed doing this, and I thank David Potier for giving me the opportunity when we started this 5 years ago. And I think Tom, bless you, and we're both superb today. And Dave T, as host, was his mercurial self, but nothing taken away from you, Mr. Potier, when you finished your digging. Actually, that does sound a bit weird, but there you go. I think I don't know. I'll dig myself into a hole.
Tom, anything to add? Any shout outs for anybody? Anything you'd like to highlight to finish?
No, just shout out to Forever Bristol City podcast. You probably see me very active in the comments and stuff when you're always on. It's just a pleasure to be involved, and I'd love to do it again if you'd have me.
Cool. Okay, everybody. Thank you for joining us. If you joined us live, if you listen tonight or tomorrow, I hope your weekend is finishing in a wonderful way, and I hope we are the perfect start to your week if you listen at any point.